So let me have you introduce yourself, and we'll kind of start from there.
I'm Sue Hulsmann of Suzi and the Queen team, and I relocate honeybee colonies from structures all over San Luis Obispo County.
That's awesome. How did you get started with that?
That's a funny question. Usually I tell people I won 12 colonies in a poker game. It's not true.
I was like, you're gonna have to explain that.
No, not true. But people always laugh.
Yeah.
I'm a Cal Poly graduate,
Okay.
grew flowers for many years, and I'm also a master pruner grafter. So I had a beautiful orchard with no fruit. And I thought, I should probably get some bees. And then
Yeah.
it sucked me in badly.
Oh, so you went? Are you still producing orchards and stuff?
Some.
Some. But you've totally made the switch from to just
Yes.
to,
Yes.
removing bees. Well, that's cool. So what were the what was the orchard? What kind of plant was it?
I had a huge fruit orchard at my parents' vineyard in Paso Robles, and none of the trees had fruit on them. So I knew something was wrong.
Yeah.
And so once I got bees, everything was fine. Had great fruit production. In fact, I had to change my pruning methods because every single blossom was pollinated.
Oh.
And so with that, I had a fruit stand, sold lots of fruits and vegetables when the kids were little. But when they got older and started going to school, I thought I need to go back to work, in
Yeah.
greenhouses or growing flowers. But that market was tough in Paso Robles. So my husband said, build a business, doing something you love, and this is where I landed.
Oh, that's awesome. So why do you think the bees weren't getting to your orchard?
I think the wild bees in the canyon where we were just weren't plentiful enough to do it.
Were enough? Oh, there were some then.
There were some.
Just not enough.
Not enough.
Oh, okay. So you come in and someone gives you a call. Why don't you kind of take me through the process? Someone gives you a call and they say, "Hey, I have some bees in a location that I don't want them, obviously." So what's your process to begin with?
Initially, I asked for a photo or a video so
Yeah.
I can see what people are talking about
Yeah.
because sometimes those visuals are really tough to figure out. And most of my callers have their hair on fire, which is kind of funny
Yeah.
because everyone is afraid of bees.
Yeah.
And so it's sort of my job to kind of calm people down, educate them a little bit, and then tell them about my services. And the way we figure out where the bees are is using infrared technology. I have an infrared camera, and it'll show the heat signature of the adult bees, the larva, and the pupa right through the construction materials.
Wow.
So it's pretty cool. I go out really early in the morning before the sun comes up because the camera does best in cool temperatures and in the dark. It's looking for heat.
Yeah, right.
And so the honeybees keep the brood nest at 93 to 94 degrees, so it's easy to see in the dark, when it's cold.
Yeah.
So that's the first step is I go out and try and figure out where the bees are and how big the colony is. Once I figure that out, I go home, download the camera, and write an estimate for the relocation and a
okay.
report with the photos
Yeah.
explaining how that'll happen. And what that involves is taking my general contractor with me. We open up the area occupied by the honeybees,
Yeah.
and then I have a special bee vacuum. I just vacuum them up, remove the comb, bee-proof the location, and we put everything back together.
Oh, wow.
It's a lot of fun.
Wow. Okay, so I think my next question is, I mean, maybe you don't know, but maybe you do. What makes the bees decide to, I mean, we're talking about inside structures or buildings. What makes them go into there specifically?
It makes me crazy to try and figure it
Oh,
out,
yeah?
Tom.
Okay.
I honestly don't know. They find the smallest
Yeah.
little space, the
Right.
smallest little crack. And so it's always mind-boggling. I have no idea how
No
they
idea.
figure it out. But they're looking for a new home and they'll find it.
Yeah. And do you know what makes them look for a new place to?
It's seasonal.
Seasonal?
It's seasonal. In the spring, with a lot of nectar flow, a lot of honey being produced, the bees run out of space. And so the queen and about half of the workers flies away to find a new home. And then that leaves the parent colony a little less congested, a little more space.
Okay.
And so they build new queens, they make new queens, and the primary queen and half of her workers flies off to find a new home.
So do they do that when the queen bee's already been born, or is it like in the process of in
It's
the larvae stage?
Yeah, they're in the process. It's right when they cap the queen cells, then the primary queen flies away.
She's like, I'm out.
Yep.
I'll see you later.
Leave it to you girls.
And how long does that process take for her to be hatched, I guess? Is that the right word?
After the primary queen leaves, it takes about 8 days. And
Well,
then
it's not that too bad.
then the daughters emerge, and then they have to mature a little bit, harden their exoskeletons, exercise their wing muscles until they're ready to fly, maybe 3 or 4 days.
Mm-hmm.
And then they fly out to become mated in the neighborhood and hopefully come back.
Oh, so at that time when they're out, the worker bees are just hanging out. They're waiting for her to come back.
Yes. And there are so many things that can happen to a virgin queen flying around in the neighborhood.
Right.
Oh my gosh, the birds eat her. Windshields are kind of in the way.
Oh my gosh.
So,
Yeah, right.
so the mating of a new queen is really a delicate thing. It doesn't always happen.
So do you ever come up on those kind of the colonies that don't have a queen bee?
Yes.
So I've seen some videos. I did a little bit of research. So sometimes bee removers, they'll have a queen bee on hand.
No, not us.
Oh, not you. Okay.
We go to find her.
You go to find her.
Yeah, and I find her the majority of the time.
Majority of the time.
Yeah.
But if there's not one, what's your approach to that?
We were in Oceano last Saturday.
Yeah.
And there was not a primary queen, but there were 20 virgin queens running around all over the place, and they were emerging while we were working.
Oh, you're like, okay.
And so, yeah, we were chasing queens all over the place last Saturday. It was crazy.
So if there's that many, they just overproduce, I'm assuming, and then
Yes.
and then whatever happens, I guess.
Hopefully one
as like
comes back.
Fail safe, right?
Yeah.
I mean. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. So how long do queen bees live for?
2 or 3 years, probably. Commercial beekeepers replace them more regularly than hobbyists.
Yeah. Okay. So you give the client an estimate, and then you come out and you kind of touched on it, but you have like a little bee vacuum. Mm-hmm. How does that work? Do you find the queen first and then you start vacuuming up the rest of the bees?
No.
Okay.
So the queen is where the eggs and larvae are.
Yeah.
Okay, that's her workspace.
Right.
So usually the honey is first, so we remove honey, and then we work our way into the brood nest. The bees are so smart; they move that queen away from wherever I am working.
Really?
And they hide her. And so if I don't find her in the first, say, half hour, they push her way to the back of the colony, and so she is usually the last bee out.
Oh my God.
Drives us crazy.
That's crazy. They know that, like, I mean, they're extremely smart.
I'm trying to think like a bee, Tom, and I'm not there yet.
Yeah, so I have seen like a couple of videos of like is it the drone bees or the worker? It's probably the drone bees. They have the little dance, right? That they tell wherever the good flowers are and stuff.
Yes.
Do you see people? Or do you see bees doing that?
Yes. So the drones are the boys.
Yeah.
And they don't work. They don't dance. They don't do anything. They don't even keep the larvae warm. All they do is eat honey and wait for virgins.
Okay.
That's what they are waiting for. So in the afternoon at this time of year, usually early afternoon, maybe 2 or 3 o'clock, all of the drones leave all of the colonies and they go to a place in the neighborhood that usually has a big landmark, like a big tree or a big rock. Mm-hmm. And it's called the drone congregation area. And it's where all the boy bees go to wait for the virgin queens to fly by. And each virgin needs to mate with 8 to 12 drones to have enough sperm for her lifetime. So the boy bees just go to this special location, and it's kind of like a boy bar, They all hang out there. They all kind of hang out there. And then the virgins know where this location is. And so they go there to be mated and then fly home. And when all the virgins have come and gone, then the boy bees go back home. And in the afternoon, you can see them all returning. It's pretty cool.
Wow.
So the girl bees are the ones that are the foraging force.
Yeah.
They are the ones that look for the food sources. They look for water, pollen, and nectar, and then also propolis, which is plant resins that they use inside the colony to disinfect. So the girl bees are the real workforce.
Yeah. So they're just kind of in this one spot. And I'm assuming it's something like pheromones or something that the virgin bees are coming towards that.
You would think so. I don't know how they communicate these locations generation after generation. It's the same drone congregation area.
It's the same place. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, blowing my mind right now.
Yeah. It's like a secret bar that you know that
A
where
secret
it
bee
is.
bar.
Yeah, but it doesn't have a sign outside.
But they all know. They all
all
know.
know.
Yeah, they all get, Um, okay, and I know I talked to you on the phone, and you said like this time of year, especially summer, is like the busiest you guys are.
Yes.
And that's just because it's seasonal. Like the bees are very active.
Right.
And they're
And people are outside and they're noticing them more.
okay. But so there's not as much calls in the fall or winter, but are the bees still kind of trying to look for a different spot or somewhere that's warmer? Or
No, the swarming where bees go to find a new home just really occurs in the springtime.
Okay.
In the latish springtime when there's a lot of nectar flow and the colonies are getting full. It happens again briefly in the fall, usually in September, when again we have another fall nectar flow, which causes the colonies to be full of honey and not enough space for baby bees. So we'll see another swarm season coming up here in a little bit. But for the most part, it's a seasonal thing where the bees move to new locations. Over the winter, they're happy in their space. They don't have any chance of overcrowding. The population is at its smallest in the winter and at its largest in the middle of the summer. So in the winter, they're kind of quiet. They don't fly every day because of the weather.
Yeah.
And so people don't notice them as much.
Has the weather that we've had recently in the last 2 years kind of affected their season? Like we've had so much rain in the last 2-ish years, right? So is it an earlier season or is it a later season, or is it generally the same?
This rainfall has really generated a lot of honey in the last 2 years. I think record-breaking honey
Really?
production. Yeah. So when the beekeepers see this rain coming, we all get really excited because we know it translates to honey later.
Yeah.
So the idea is after 2 weeks after 2 inches of rain falls, the first 2 inches of rain, we have a nectar flow. The plants respond that quickly.
Wow.
2 weeks after 2 inches, and boom, all the flowers are blooming and the bees are back at work.
Okay. So if with all this overproduction of honey, do you guys have to harvest it, or they're just storing that for the hive, or how does that work?
We want them to have enough honey to survive the winter. So
Right.
yeah, that's right. They produce all this honey in order to get through the winter rainy months when they can't get outside and forage for new food.
Cool. And then I think I looked up, like, do you know why like the honeycomb is in that shape?
The bees build it that way. It's always level and plumb. So I find that fascinating, and so do my contractors and some of the team members that we work with. It's a beautiful thing to see, even if the location where the bees are residing is not rectangular.
Yeah.
They hang in little trails of, vertically so that they know what plum is.
Yeah.
And then they know.
Then they go off of that.
Yeah, they just go off of that. So all of the comb is just so perfectly placed. And then the sheets of comb are 3/8 of an inch apart from each other, so that bees walking on those 2 pieces of comb don't bump heads. So not only is it level and plumb, but it's 3/8 of an inch apart each piece, even if it's curly or not straight.
Oh
It's
my gosh.
fascinating.
Wow.
It really is beautiful.
I had no idea. So they just go off of that, huh?
And only certain bees produce wax at a certain age.
Okay.
And then bees that are a little bit older use that wax to build the hexagons. So it's a whole army of builders inside there working 24/7.
So how did you discover that? Or is it just widely known that it's plum?
Yeah.
Or
It's
you had your
known.
contractor like, let's go check it?
Oh, in the beginning, he checked it every time.
Really? And he's like, every time?
Uh-huh. And when we show property owners or, people who are, wanting to see, when we show that to them, their eyes light up. It's fabulous.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't know that. That's crazy. They're so smart. I mean, we know so little, I'm sure, about all this stuff that we have going on, right?
I told you I'm trying to think like a bee, and I'm not there yet.
Okay, so you extract the bees, and where do they go from there?
So the bees end up in a vacuum catch box. It's the same size as a 10-frame deep hive. Okay, so we take those bees to the apiary, and my apiary manager puts that box on top of all the brood that we've taken out, all the comb that we've taken out of the house, we rubber band it into frames, and then that goes into a hive. And then the catch box with the bees in it, we put it on top, we pull out a sliding tray, and then all the bees just walk down onto the comb. So then there they are. They've got the comb that they started out with, their queen, and then we give them empty drawn comb so the queen can lay as many eggs as she wants. We give them honey so that they don't have to work so hard. You know, they've got some stores, and then we put them to work, and they're well cared for. If they have varroa mites, we treat them, and we are finding queens that are really, in my opinion, better than the pedigree queens that are coming out of the valley. These wild queens are really something.
And why is that?
They are taking care of the varroa mites without beekeepers helping. And the varroa mites are like fleas on your dog.
Okay.
And there are treatments that commercial and hobbyist beekeepers use to manage those mites.
Yeah.
But I am finding these wild queens that have hygienic characteristics where they are taking care of the mites without me helping. And for those characteristics are so important in the genetic pool.
Right.
Because we want the bees to take care of the mites without us.
Totally.
It's hard to, treat all of the bees all of the time. It's
Yeah.
best if we can find colonies that don't need to be treated and then watch them. And so that's what we're doing. We're trying to find these queens that are superior to the pedigree queens.
Is that a recent development, or is that since you've started, you've seen that?
It's something that's always existed.
Yeah.
But I think I'm in a special position to recognize it.
You're like, so you come in and you see, after you've deposited them there, you see all those mites, and then, maybe a couple of weeks later they're gone and you haven't done anything, or they're a lot less?
I see characteristics that show me that the bees are taking care of the mites. So one of those characteristics is when the foragers walk into the hive, the receiving bees groom them. Groom them to see, are there any mites? Let's get these off of them. Yeah. It's kind of like when you come into the house and you're dusty or dirty, you take your dirty clothes off.
Right.
The bees do that. They check for mites as the foraging force is coming in. Another characteristic is that the house bees that are minding the pupa know that there are varroa mites under the pupa, under the wax cap, and they're sucking the fat out of the larva. And so they uncap the pupa, and the mites come out, and then they either kill them or the mites die because they don't have the proper water content, the moisture that they need to survive. And so that uncapping and recapping of pupa is a big deal because it means that the bees know where the mites are and they're taking them out on their own.
So that's a skill that they probably developed somewhat recently, I'm assuming.
It's in their genetics.
Oh,
it's
taking
genetics.
The stuff off and then looking for the mites.
And looking for the mites. And that's something that we don't always see in the pedigree queens that are being raised commercially. So when I see those traits, I get really excited.
Yeah.
And that hive is marked, so that we know that those characteristics are present. And then if we don't have to treat that colony, that goes into the notes.
Yeah.
Because if they don't need us to treat them because they're handling the mites on their own, then that's a big bonus.
Totally. So yeah, do they breed those queens as well, those hives, I'm assuming, or no, from the valley?
Commercially, they always are looking for the best queens.
Yeah.
And they have their criteria. You want them to be gentle, productive, take care of the mites, and so on and so forth. So each producer has their own list of characteristics that they feel are important to produce.
Yeah.
But when we find these wild queens that have those same characteristics, we get really excited.
I mean, this
Yeah.
is
Mother Nature. This is Mother Nature.
Yeah. Wow. So when you put them, you said that. What would you say that? Not the aviary. It's the
apiary.
Apiary.
Mm-hmm.
Are there other colonies there?
Yes, lots of other colonies.
Is that ever an issue?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
An apiary, a yard, can get too full of bees, and so that they're not bringing in the product that they need to. So we need to manage that and move the bees around a lot so that they're on perfect forage.
Right. And so what happens if something goes wrong? Like I've heard like a few stories of like two different hives, kind of figuring it out in the air and then they come back down or something like that. I don't know if that's true or not, but anything like that happen? Have you seen?
The drones are allowed, the boy bees are allowed to come and go from any of the colonies that they want to. So we call that drone drift. And the drones kind of are sort of lazy. And so when they come back from the drone congregation area in the afternoon, they often land in the hive that is nearest.
They're tired.
They're tired. And the bees let them in. Okay. Likewise, the foraging force is kind of similar. They are coming back from grocery shopping, and they also are tired.
Yeah.
And so sometimes they land on the colonies that are on the edges. So those colonies on the edges of the apiary tend to be somewhat larger. But that's not typical of every yard, but the bees do drift a little bit. They get tired. But as far as, bees going in between colonies, the guard bees guard the entrances of each one. And they are like, when you go into a concert and they check your ticket.
Yeah.
When a bee enters into goes to the entrance and is trying to go into a colony, the guard bees check them out pretty seriously. They want to know they belong to that colony. And if they don't, they often will kick them out. Or sometimes they can be allowed in, offering nectar or pollen, as a bribe to the guards.
Really?
But the guard bees are pretty serious. They won't let bees in that don't belong.
Little bouncer bees, huh?
Yeah, it's pretty fun. Fun job.
So what? I mean, I don't know if you know, but how do they tell? Is it like the markings, or how does that?
The smell.
The smell, like the pheromones or something?
Mm-hmm.
They're like, hey, you don't smell right. Get
no,
out.
Wrong colony.
Yeah.
2 to the left. It's fun to watch them work.
Yeah.
They are really obvious at the entrance. And those guard bees are the ones that want to sting you. That's their job, to guard the entrance, to make sure that no funky business comes in and that there's nothing funky outside going on. But the foraging force doesn't want to sting you. They're just looking for groceries.
Yeah.
And sometimes they kind of bump into you, when they're looking for groceries. And it's kind of like someone in the grocery store. They bump into you with their cart, but, they're not going to bite your head off or hurt you.
Right. So those, I mean, you said the guard bees, they want to sting you. So is that bees as well? Will they sting each other, or is just humans coming in?
No, if a yellow jacket or a wax moth tries to come in, oh yeah, they'll kill them.
But then, so with the stinger, is that it for them though?
Yes, one sting and they're done.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, you sting and then
That's it.
That's it.
But there are always other guard bees that are coming up the ranks, so they'll take their place.
So okay, interesting.
So we steer clear of the guard bees. And if we're working from an interior of a structure, the guard bees are still outside working on the entrance. And so they don't bother us, because we're coming from the inside. But when we start from the outside, then we vacuum those guard bees up first thing before anything else is done. And as long as we get the guard bees out of the mix, everything's fine.
And I'm sure you're probably an expert at identifying all these different kinds of bees now, right?
Well, the guard bees are at the entrance.
Well, yeah, I mean, sure.
But they all look the same, Tom.
Yeah.
They really do.
But you're like, but I'm sure there's subtleties, right, as far as their behavior, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
And when I'm looking at a colony, I like to see genetic diversity, meaning I like to see a lot of different colors, gold, brown, striped, not striped. And that shows me that the queen did mate with a diverse group of drones and that the colony in itself is diverse. And that's good.
Oh.
I want to see diverse pollen in there. I want to see lots of different colors of pollen. That shows they have lots of different food sources. And then we should discuss honey color.
Yeah, let's do it.
Honey is light in the springtime, like this bottle right here. It looks like the color of 7-Up or ginger ale or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
And it's really sweet and really floral, fragrant. And then in the summertime, it gets a little bit darker. It's maybe like root beer, or it's an amber color.
Okay.
And that is due to the summer nectar sources, that the honey is a little bit darker. And the flavor, of course, is different because the nectar sources are different. And then in the fall, the honey is dark like molasses, and it's really strong and smells really good. And it has more minerals in it, so it's good for, colds or, in the wintertime to take it. And that is true in the opposite order in the southern hemisphere.
Oh, because the
Is
seasons
that
are
cool?
different, right?
Is that
I didn't even think
cool
about
or
that.
what?
Yeah.
Spring honey is light all over the world.
So, the color is dependent on what they're
Foraging.
foraging. It has nothing to do with like, say like, this is like the best example I could think of is like when they make whiskey, they put it in a barrel and they
Yeah.
age it, but that has nothing to do with like
No.
it's sitting in the hive for longer or anything like that.
No. It's all the nectar source.
Okay, so in the spring it's clear, you said.
Yeah.
And what are they foraging for?
Usually wildflowers in the springtime.
Wildflowers.
And then in the summer, when it starts to get darker, it's toyon. Right now, we're seeing the toyon honey come in, and it's darker. And then in the winter or the fall, late fall, a lot of it is honeydew, which is kind of weird. It's when the aphids eat plant material, and then they poop sugar, plant sugar, and then the bees take that as a source of food. And the oak tree honeydew honey in the fall is really good.
Oh, what?
But it's aphid poop.
It's aphid poop that they're.
But it's because there aren't very many floral sources, nectar sources at that time, and so they're opportunistic. They take what they get.
Wow, you're blowing my mind today, man. Oh wow. So and they probably need more of the aphid poop because it's colder, right? They need.
Right.
You said there's more minerals in it as well, right?
Right. Yeah.
So they need something a little more substantial to last through the winter. Mm-hmm. Wow.
And they will work every single day, whether there's forage out there or not. They will go looking for it. So early in the morning, Tom, the bees are kind of sleeping.
Yeah.
The house bees feed the larvae 24/7, so they're always working. But the foraging force can kind of rest at nighttime. They don't have to go out. And so early in the morning, the first of the foraging force, the oldest of the bees, go out looking for new nectar sources. They know what was available the day before, but they're going out to look to see what else might be available. And so once they identify those new nectar sources, they go back to the hive and they wake up the foraging force to tell them, hey, we found some new forage. We found this new daisy that's blooming over in, the west neighborhood or whatever. But the foragers are kind of tired and it's kind of cold outside. They're not really ready to go. So the bees that have found the new forage jump on top of them to wake them up. And so then
It's like your kids
slowly, it's like getting your kids out of bed for school. Slowly, the foraging force wakes up and they head out to those new nectar sources. But I think it's so cool that there is a early foraging force that goes out to look for those.
And they make a plan for the day.
They make a plan for the day. Not the same plan as yesterday.
Not the same. And how far do they travel? How far can they travel?
Up to 3 miles. Radius.
Radius.
Yeah. It's a long way.
That's a pretty good clip.
They have to eat enough honey to get where they're going
And back, right?
and back.
Right, yeah. Mm-hmm. So what kind of plants do they like here? All the stuff you've already mentioned?
Right now we're noticing blue curl and vinegar weed. Let me think. I already mentioned toyon.
Yeah.
That's what's going on right now.
And then, so then run me through the different seasons, what they like here locally, what they like.
Actually, there's a book that explains what's available. It was written by Jeremy Rose, and it explains what is available each season in California. And I think some of the larger beekeepers really understand plants and botany and what is blooming. And if you don't understand it, then you're out there looking in your apiary to see what's available.
What's there,
yeah. So not everybody knows what they're bringing in. And sometimes we see this beautiful light honey in the fall and wonder what the heck is going on. And that is star thistle. And star thistle is going like crazy all over right now.
Yeah.
And all of the ranchers hate it. Most gardeners hate it. Anybody that walks barefoot definitely hates it.
Yeah, right.
But the bees love it. And it makes light honey in the fall, which is really unusual. And it is really the best honey in California, in my opinion. I love it.
And why is that unusual that it's light?
Well, in the summer or the fall, it should be darker.
It should be darker, but it's still light.
But it's still light. So there are some exceptions to the rule, and star thistle is one of those.
Oh, wow.
And so some beekeepers fight over those yards because in the fall, forage is kind of scarce, but that star thistle is going off and acres of it.
Yeah.
So sometimes beekeepers, fight a little bit over yards. too many people put too many bees, or maybe you need to really have a relationship with a property owner, certainly, in order to have the bees there. You can't just drop bees on the side of the road somewhere because the
No.
forage looks good. You've got
Yeah.
to have a relationship with the property owner.
And that's your favorite honey?
I think so.
Yeah.
I love it.
But you were saying that the what was it, the oak? You say the oak one was pretty good too?
Yeah, the darker honeys.
Yeah.
So our son is going off to college in a couple of weeks here, and I'm sending him with a dark jar of honey because I figure he's going to be around all these kids. He's going to need to boost his immune system.
Right. Yeah. So, how is the bee population currently? I know there's a lot of worry about it going down, right, with the pesticides and stuff going on. How is that? How's that going?
I think I worry a lot about the weather.
More?
Yeah.
Then
I worry about rainfall and weather. I have a weather station at my house. I'm constantly looking at the precipitation. But I think, let's see, 3 years ago at Lake Nacimiento, every time I went out there to remove a colony, it was starving. And it's really pathetic, Tom, that when the bees are really hungry, they eat back their eggs and larvae. They actually eat back their eggs and larvae. So I was seeing bees cannibalizing their own larvae, and I was having a little fit. And that was at Lake Nacimiento, I guess 3 years ago now. And so those colonies were doing so poorly, no food whatsoever. It was the drought. There was nothing blooming.
Right.
And so then the following year, I got no calls from Lake Nacimiento. And I thought, oh my gosh, all the bees died out there. You know, but with this rainfall, they're back in action again.
Back,
I'm going back to Lake Nasi this year.
Nice.
So they rebound.
Yeah.
In bad years, you wonder if they're ever going to make it, but in good years, you see they do.
Okay, so this kind of touches on that. Have you ever had like a bad day at work? Like, what does a bad day at work look like for you? Because I have them all the time, and I'm like, I wonder how it is like looking and removing bees.
I never have a bad day. Well, some days we get stung more. Some days the bees are kind of cranky.
Right.
If we're working in the rain, they're always cranky. They don't like that too much. And so we do have bad days, but I think they are just such fascinating creatures.
Yeah.
I'm learning something every single day. And if I make a mistake, I try to learn from it.
Yeah.
But I think the worst days are when we're seeing the bees eating back eggs, or we know they're in a desperate situation. But the thing is, I know how to help.
Right.
I feed them. I take care of them, take care of the mites. And so I think every colony under our care is really doing well.
That's awesome.
No matter what.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go to like stinging. So how I'm sure you've been stung so many times. How do you deal with that now?
It doesn't really hurt anymore.
No?
No, it itches still. You can't get rid of that.
Yeah.
We try not to get stung.
Yeah.
And so on the internet, you can see these girls doing bee removal with no gloves,
I've
with
seen
their
that lady.
loose blonde hair flowing in the wind. We don't do that. Maybe in other states it's easier. In California, the bees, are unpredictable. We don't know if the colony is super gentle, where we can go without gear or gloves, or if the colony is kind of cranky or hungry or something like that. So we're always suited up. I wear an Ultra Breeze jacket and jeans and boots and gloves.
Yeah.
Some of my coworkers wear full suits. It kind of depends on your comfort level. But oftentimes I take my gloves off when I find the bees are gentle. I usually pick the queen up barehanded. Her little wings are handles, so I can grab her by the wings and get her into a little cage to keep her safe. But for the most part, we are really careful and gentle and quiet. And so when you meet me in person or you talk to me on the phone, I talk fast and I'm enthusiastic about the subject. But when I'm at work, I'm really quiet. I don't talk very much. My crew members all know me very well, so they can anticipate what I'm doing without a lot of conversation. And so we are slow and methodical. And if the bees get a little jacked up over something, we give them a little break. But it's all about gentle recovery. I don't want the bees to be, jacked up or upset with whatever we're doing. I want them to make the transition easily.
Yeah.
And that's my job.
So do you use any smoke at all?
Oh, yeah. We use smoke in the beginning.
Yeah.
It makes the bees eat honey and they kind of forget what we're doing. The smoke can also move them off comb. If we want them to move into a certain location, we can get them to do that. Yeah, it's fun. We look for the queen. My eyeballs bug out of my head sometimes looking for her in a huge mass of bees.
Right.
But that's the goal, is to find her and get her into a cage. If she goes down the vacuum tube, nothing will happen to her. She'll be fine. But it's annoying to me because I always want to know where she is.
So you find it later then?
I find the queen sometimes right in the very beginning, but usually right at the end.
But no, if it goes into the vacuum.
Oh, yeah. Well,
you're like, it's...
Yeah. Oops, there she went. So the mature queens that we're removing can't fly. They're too fat. Okay. And the bees feed them. So they don't feed themselves. The bees feed them, they groom them and care for them. And so if something happens, like say the bees are in an oak tree and the oak tree falls over, then the queen is too fat to fly away. She can't do it. But the bees put her on a diet and exercise program 24/7. They won't let her sleep. They won't let her rest. They chase her around on the comb, make her, flap her wings and work on her flight muscles, and they don't feed her, so she is skinny enough to fly. And that takes 3 to 5 days. So after an oak tree falls, the queen goes on the diet and exercise program, and then the bees start looking for a new location and they fly away. So, but when we're working, she is definitely too fat to fly. The best she can do is just hop a little bit, and so that makes it easier to catch her.
Wow. Blowing my mind with the whole bee exercise. Put her on a treadmill. Don't feed her. Abuse.
I know, and she doesn't like it.
Who would?
Feed me.
Yeah, I mean, who would? She's getting fat and happy, and then she's got to go on a diet. I mean, so what makes a hive gentle versus a little, maybe not aggressive, but a little more cranky?
In the fall, the bees are all kind of cranky. It's hot. The forage is kind of reduced. So we do see the bees are a little bit cranky in the fall. In the spring, they're always really gentle and all the bees are happy. But each colony is different. And it's up to me to know the temperament. So if I approach a colony and all the guard bees come and chase me around a little bit, that's kind of questionable. You wonder what's going on there.
Yeah.
And maybe it's something inside. Maybe they are making new queens and so they're cranky. Or maybe there's not enough forage, or maybe it's just too hot inside, in these 100-degree temperatures, they get pretty hot inside.
Yeah.
So different things can make them testy. We do have Africanized genes in our county, so some bees are meaner than others.
Yeah.
But it's just like people. Some people are meaner than others too.
Yeah. So so hives have different personalities, kind of like
do.
people.
They really do.
So the whole hive has that personality, not like the individual bees, I'm assuming.
Right. Yeah. The whole hive.
The whole hive.
Mm-hmm.
And how does you said they're Africanized, some of them maybe.
Yeah.
But is that ever an issue that comes up or anything like that?
We see some mean ones each year.
Yeah.
Maybe 1 in 6 or 7. It has a little bit of a cranky attitude. So we sort of have to figure it out. If it's mites, because they're having trouble with mites.
Yeah.
If it's trouble with food. If it's maybe just trouble with the location, they're too hot or whatever it is, too windy or something like that, then it's up to us to kind of figure that out and make sure that they are in the best possible situation to be friendly.
To be more friendly.
Yeah. Because if the bees are so mean that you can't even open the lid, then that queen needs to go.
Okay.
Out of the gene pool.
Out of the gene pool. Okay. And then when you deposit them where they're going, do you put them a little further away from the other hives to let them chill out? Or
no, they can be right next to each other.
They can? Doesn't matter?
Right now, we're in the process of removing 6 colonies from a pool cabana in San Luis. And those colonies are right next to each other in the
6
cabana.
colonies?
6 in a cabana. And so in 2 locations, they are 1 2x4 apart. And so they don't mind being next to each other like that. The guard bees know who belongs where.
Oh my gosh. 6 colonies. I can't believe that. So how long does that take you then?
We were there all week and we're going to go back. So 1 a day.
1 a day.
1 a day. They're huge in that cabana. We can do small ones, multiples a day.
Yeah.
But in that cabana, they've been there for 5 years. Each one is enormous. So.
And whoever owned that didn't know, or they just let it go, or
couldn't find anybody to do the work.
Couldn't find anybody to do the work.
Mm-hmm. And I have a website. I don't know how they missed me, but they found me now. And there aren't a lot of companies that do this in the county.
Yeah, yeah. Let's get into that. So, how many people are doing it other than you?
Only me.
You're like only me, and I want to keep it that way.
No, there are other. So we have a very large group of beekeepers in San Luis Obispo County, and we have a fantastic club. It's called the Central Coast Beekeepers Alliance, and I happen to be the president of the club. It's a really active club, and there are a lot of beekeepers with day jobs who do rescue on the weekends. And so maybe they'll rescue a swarm out of a tree or bees out of a water meter box or something small along those lines.
Yeah.
But as far as what I do with insurance, writing contracts,
Right.
infrared camera, I'm the only one.
Yeah, that's awesome though. That
I
makes
love
you,
my job,
Yeah,
Tom.
I mean,
love my job.
If you're the only one doing it, you gotta be busy, man. Like that's awesome.
Yeah. Well, there is a place for the hobbyists who do it on the weekends.
Yeah.
You know, there are some easy jobs out there, people who don't need contractors but if your house is getting opened up, if somebody's proposing to open your home to relocate colonies, they should have some insurance. It's like anything else.
Yeah.
Something can go wrong.
Exactly. 6 colonies. That blows my mind.
Oh,
That's
gosh, it's so
crazy.
much fun. The view there is incredible. And the bees are really producing a lot of honey. So I think already out of there, we've taken out, I don't know, maybe 125 pounds of honey already out of there.
Oh my goodness.
It's crazy.
Crazy. I bet the homeowner was so happy to find you.
Oh my gosh,
They're
so
like,
happy.
"Thank you, please."
Yeah. And Tom, what I do is once we get to work and we open up the house or the cabana, I take lots of pictures.
Yeah.
So because the property owner isn't there, they don't know what the heck we're doing, so we share all those photos and video. When I get the queen into a clip, then I take video of her so they can see what she looks like. And then of course, when the location is cleaned out and we've bee-proofed it, I take more photos. So the property owner gets this little photo diary and little comments about what happened, and they get honey. The best honey goes to the property owner, the people that hire us, because we don't put the honey from the relocation into the hive because we've cut it with a knife and then all that honey is dripping. It causes ants and all kinds of other problems. So we don't transfer the honey from the relocation into the new hive. We give the bees honey that's already been produced in the apiary, so it's not dripping or anything like that. So the best honey goes to our clients.
Wow.
And they love that. And I brought you honey today, too.
Yeah, no, I love it. So how do you kind of touched on it, but how do you prevent them from coming back? How do you said you bee-proof it or
once a location has been occupied by a colony, it is forever interesting to other bees.
Yeah.
And so a new colony will move in seasonally to a location where bees have been before. So we close the entrance really carefully, whatever that is. If it's a woodpecker hole or a little crack in the stucco or something like that, or maybe a framing defect. So we close the entrance really carefully, and spray foam doesn't cut it. The bees will chew that stuff right out. So flashing or screening or framing, is usually the name of the game. And then we fill the void they occupy if it's appropriate, like with insulation.
Yeah. And
then close everything back up, put it back together like it was before. And then we don't have any trouble with bees returning. I don't guarantee that bees won't return. It's not in my contract because, I can't control what they do.
Right.
But we do our best to close everything up. And so far, we haven't been called back.
Anywhere.
Wow. We're doing it right, Tom.
Yeah, you must
We're
be.
doing it right.
You must be. Jeez. Okay, and then you kind of touched on it earlier too. So there's a lot of hobbyists. You said, where does someone, if they're interested in beekeeping, where's the best spot to figure out how to do that?
I think within the club.
Within the club?
Within the club. The meeting that we had on Thursday, we meet monthly. The meeting we had last Thursday was discussing preparing bees for autumn, including varroa mite treatments, how to test for varroa mites to know if your bees have them, and then also how to manage honey. Yellow jackets are a problem going into the summer. They'll try rob hives out, and just, preparing for winter so that the bees have enough honey stored, and so that they aren't pressured by other bees trying to rob their honey. Robbing honey at this time of the year is a really serious thing.
Yeah, I bet.
If we do a relocation outside and we drip 1 drop of honey, every bee within 3 miles comes for free lunch. And it causes chaos.
Oh my gosh. This time of season, you got to be real careful about the honey you drop, huh?
Oh, yeah. 1 drop.
1 drop.
Every bee from 3 miles comes.
And you're like, oh no.
Yes, because then those bees are free grocery shopping, free buffet.
Right.
But our bees are trying to defend.
Yeah.
So it's chaos. If we vacuum up some of the robbing bees that are coming for free lunch, if we vacuum them up accidentally with the bees that we're relocating, it doesn't even matter at all. They all jumble around inside the vacuum. The pheromones rub off on everybody. And then when we turn the vacuum off, everyone's friendly. All the bees are friends. So the robbers sometimes get sucked up and they go along with us, but they just join into the colony. So it's not a big deal. But those robbers can cause chaos, I'm telling you, because what they're doing to us, Tom, is they're licking the honey off of us. So they're on our jackets, on our boots, on our gloves and everything else. The neighborhood bees are licking us to death pretty much every day, Tom.
Oh my gosh. That's so crazy.
And my crew is pretty funny about it too, because they'll say, Sue, hurry up, here come the robbers. And
they can see 'em.
Sure enough, they come in force all of a sudden. Like one neighborhood bee smells honey and comes and has a little taste, goes back home and says,
tells
everyone, hey, Sue's down the road, everyone come.
They're like, no, please don't.
So being clean, not dripping honey is a big deal. But Tom, you should see my truck. After we leave here, there'll probably be bees flying around in the back of it because there's honey on my door handles or on my bumper or something like that.
We got a whole garden in the back. It's all good. Like, let them do their thing, you know?
Hey, they're cleaning up my truck.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
don't have to go to the car wash.
All right, cool. Anything else you want to add for the public to know about, like, if you find bees or, you know, you don't want them there, or, you know, how to behave around them, or?
Yeah. So it's interesting to observe bees in your neighborhood because they're on all the floral sources.
Yeah.
So sometimes people call and say, oh my gosh, I have so many bees in my backyard and I need you to come and get them. The problem is they're all foraging on some blooming tree or something. You know, and I can't get all the bees off the blooming tree.
No.
But I think bees in nature, it's nice to observe. There are solitary bees, you know, that are native to California. There are bumblebees out there that are fun to watch because they're really loud.
Yeah.
Along with honeybees. And so observing all these bees in your yard is kind of fun. But I think the biggest message is that educating the public about honeybees and not to be afraid that the grocery shoppers aren't going to bother you, that the guard bees are the ones to be aware of. And, you know, those sort of little small tidbits of information really calm people down because information is power, Tom.
Yeah, definitely.
And the more you know, the less likely you are to be afraid. So when the kids were little, they were in preschool and they went to school and told their friends, my mom is a beekeeper. Mm-hmm. And the kids said, she is not. So our kids came home and said, you got to take bees to school, Mom. The kids don't believe.
Yeah.
You know, they don't believe you're a beekeeper. So my dad built an observation hive for us, and my mom and I started going in preschool and first grade to the kids' classrooms, and we'd bring the observation hive so the kids could see the bees working behind the plexiglass, and we'd do honey tasting and a PowerPoint slideshow, you know, age appropriate. And that went off so big that then as the kids got older, we had to develop more programs, you know, to age appropriate. You know, in fourth grade, you want to know, you can teach more than in first grade.
Right.
And so we taught all through elementary school as our kids went through. And to date, we're 1,900 kids we have taught in the Paso Robles Joint Unified School District.
That's awesome.
We've been to Ag Day, you know, we've been all over the place. And so at least the little kids in the elementary school knew I really was a beekeeper. It made us popular all over campus. And then, you know, the teachers would have the kids write us thank you notes. And a lot of those notes said, I'm not afraid of bees anymore. I'm not going to step on a bee on the sidewalk.
Right.
And that really is empowering to me. And it was at the time because, you know, you start young, Tom.
Yeah.
You start them young.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, we got all these flowers and gardening in the back, and my wife does it. I don't really have anything to do with it. I run the irrigation. That's what I do. That's what I do. Okay, so let's have you plug the club and then your website and where people can find you, and if there's anything else you want to add. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm SuziandTheQueenTeam.com. And you can see pictures on my website of all kinds of the crazy things that we do. My general contractor is Dwayne Zaragoza, and he is so good. Oh my God, we've been together 7 years now. My bees in North County are with Thomas McCall of Sierra Honey on San Marcos Road. And oh Lord, he has the best honey in town. And then our club is the Central Coast Beekeepers Alliance. We meet monthly. We have a really active Facebook page, and we are really welcoming to new club members and new beekeepers with open arms. I mean, this is such a weird group of people. They're from all different backgrounds, all different ages, all different levels of experience. But when a new beekeeper enters the group, we're all really friendly and willing to help. And so we do a swarm chasing class in the spring to help new beekeepers. And you can always order Bee Culture magazine or the American Beekeeping Journal as a new beekeeper, or even as an advanced beekeeper. Those periodicals give you information each month as to what you should be doing. And so I think when I first started, I didn't know about the club. It was just beginning. And so I really struggled in the beginning to get up to speed and to a professional level.
Yeah.
But now it's so much easier for new beekeepers, to learn the ropes.
Mm-hmm.
And as president of the club, I am kind of controlling some of the information that is out there and helping new beekeepers as best we can. And so, like I said, this is an eclectic group of people. They are so much fun, so friendly, so helpful. And I think if anyone wants to be a new beekeeper, that's the place to start.
Mm-hmm. And that's your Facebook group. And what's it called again?
The Central Coast Beekeepers Alliance.
And where so you have a meeting in person once a month?
Once a month in Santa Margarita at the community hall there.
Okay.
It's fun.
Perfect. All right. Anything else?
I don't think so. I think when you see a lot of bees in your neighborhood, it's an indicator that your environment is healthy.
Yeah, exactly.
And so even in San Luis, in the city limits, oh my gosh, the bees are doing so well. We're really lucky to live in the Central Coast where we have all this flora and fauna. I mean, the bees are doing well here.
Yeah, I mean, especially my yard. I mean, they're everywhere.
Everywhere.
This is great. All right, cool. Let me shut this down.